House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is calling for full attendance of all Democratic members for today's critical vote on the Republican budget plan. The blueprint would implement $2 trillion in spending cuts over 10 years. For more on this, we want to bring in Congressman Frank Pallone, a Democrat of New Jersey. He's the ranking member of the Energy and Commerce Committee. And Congressman, thank you for being here today. Let's talk about what's on the line here. For Republicans, this is a pivotal moment, very important for the beginning of one big, beautiful bill. They have looked at this and thought the odds of getting this passed are best if they do this in one bill, so that you can basically be an up or down vote for Republicans. Are you with the president or are you against him? What does this mean for Democrats?
Well, I think the problem is that the Republican leadership is lying to the rank and file Republicans. In other words, they know that these Medicaid cuts will really take away health care from so many people and close hospitals and close nursing homes. And, you know, they're being told by the Republican leadership and the speaker, oh, don't worry, just vote for this today. And so we really have to point out the devastation that this is going to mean for the healthcare system. You know, something like a third of all Americans are on Medicaid. 60% of nursing home care is paid for through Medicaid. The hospitals, many of them, particularly in rural areas, will simply have to close because they won't get the funding through Medicaid that finances so much of their income at the hospital.
So your plan, I guess the Democratic plan, is to go after Republicans in vulnerable seats and try and push them into voting no on this, because that's the only game plan you guys have. You don't have enough control yourself.
Right, but we only need maybe 2 or 3 Republicans today, depending upon the attendance, to vote no, and that would kill this. And I just from talking to so many of them, they know that this is going to be devastating, for their constituents, because so many people rely on Medicaid. Most disabled programs are paid for through Medicaid. And prices are going to go up, too, because a lot of this pays for uncompensated care at hospitals. And if they're not getting the funding for the uncompensated care for people that don't have insurance or will lose their Medicaid, then they're going to have to raise prices and find another way to pay for hospital care, nursing home care. You know, it's going to have an impact on prices as well.
I hear your concerns. I guess I would go to the point of asking what you would do to try and get spending under control. I mean, there was $7 trillion that was spent last year in 2024. Of that, 60% went to mandatory programs like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, veterans benefits, unemployment insurance, and SNAP. 13% went to defense. 13% went to interest payments because interest rates were higher. And only 14% was discretionary. That's only a little less than $1 trillion, according to Axios's numbers on this. How would you go about cutting spending?
Well, first of all, this is all being done. These Medicaid cuts are being proposed in order to pay for the Republican tax plan, which basically, just helps the very wealthy and large corporate interests.
The tax plan actually helps all Americans, and I know that Democrats were in favor of keeping most of those tax cuts around, too. If you look at the problem, it's a spending and a taxes problem. But if you go to the problem on this, you're going to have to cut spending. How would you start with that?
I don't think that you necessarily need to cut spending, right? And first of all, I guess I disagree with you fundamentally. I don't think that the average person benefits from this tax cut. The other thing you should...
You would get rid of the tax cuts altogether and just say, forget it, we'll go back to where we were 10 years... They would expire, and most Americans would pay more taxes.
They would expire, sure. That would be much preferable to making all these cuts in Medicaid and devastating our healthcare system, because the bottom line is that the average person doesn't benefit from this tax plan that the Republicans put in a few years ago. Yeah, we'd be better off if it expired. But of course, if they wanted to work with us...
Frank, Congressman, you don't think the corporate tax cut was beneficial? What do you think the corporate tax rate would be? What would it go back to? 30-something? What do you think that's good?
I mean, what I would like to see is a middle-class tax cut. I'd like to see...
well, they got tax cuts, too.
Well, they get almost nothing. I mean, the bottom line is that if you look at this tax plan that was put in place, Most of the money goes to the large corporate interests and, billionaires and millionaires. Sure, if you want to come back and look at a tax cut plan that actually benefits the middle class, that's fine. But the Republicans aren't talking to us about any of this. They're just putting
the corporate tax rate,
place.
You're okay. You think that's, I don't know. It's just most people don't think we should go back to the old corporate tax rate. It was beneficial to make us more competitive.
I'd have no problem with it.
The old corporate tax rate's fine with you.
Look, absolutely. Think about the fact that what this did to places like my state in New Jersey, where you were able to deduct the full extent of your state and local taxes,
but that hurt wealthier
$10,000.
That hurt wealthier New Jersey folks more than it did.
No, it doesn't. In a state like New Jersey, the average
by default, if you have a cap on it, it hurts
in New Jersey.
Yes, but by default, if you have a cap, it's going to hurt the people who are making much more and who were writing off much more beforehand. You're right. It does hurt average New Jerseyans too, but it hurts the wealthier more.
Well, look, the bottom line is the Republicans are doing nothing to try to provide any kind of tax cut or help for the average American. It's all about corporate interests. Large corporate interests, billionaires, that's what this is all about. And you're going to do that on the backs of, people that have Medicaid, which is, not only the largest health care insurer in the country, but also the leanest. I mean, there's no one who's, Republicans can say that Medicaid, needs to be more lean, but it is the leanest of all the programs. You mentioned Medicare, you mentioned veterans. Medicaid, is the leanest. I mean, there's, anyone will tell you if you look at an analysis of it that they have the least amount of, waste or fraud or whatever you want to call it. And you're going to go after this program that helps seniors and the disabled and so many people who are low income. I mean, it's a terrible thing. And I'm telling you, what the consequence of it in terms of hospital closures, prices going up, community health centers closing, nursing homes not providing a level of services. We've just got to stop this, and that's what I'm trying to do.